Welcome, everybody. I think we can go ahead and get some things started. So first of all, I have a little presentation prepared for you guys, which I'm going to go into, that really shows everything that we've done and what we're looking to do for the future. But I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Theron Lewis. They call me the short-term rental regulations guy. I'm helping the Philadelphia Short-Term Rental Association fight this extremely important fight to save your short-term rentals. For people who don't know, and we'll go into more details, there is an ordinance that has been passed, but there's licensing that's being written where we can change this that is likely going to ban about 90% of short-term rentals if we do not stay involved and make sure that this is written in the right way. So that is why we are doing this. That's what we've been fighting for since last year. And we have a lot of updates. There's been a lot of progress made, but the fight is not close to over. And we want to let as many people know as possible what's going on so you guys can be involved and support us in any way that you can. Because I'm sure you care about your short-term rentals just as much as other people in the city do as well. And you don't want to see that right go away. Also, I want to go ahead and give Jose the floor. He can introduce himself. He's a board member of Sharing Philadelphia. He helped found it. Go right ahead, Jose.
Yes, hi, welcome everyone. Like Darren said, I'm a local operator here in Philadelphia. I'm excited to be on board. I've been here since probably day one, and I'm looking forward to supporting everyone and working on this together. I've spoken at council member meetings, interacted with council members personally, and I look forward to continuing this fight.
Fantastic. Appreciate all your help, Jose. A lot of people should be thanking you for everything you've been doing, and we really appreciate it. So next, what I'd like to do is introduce Miss Kelly Fay. She is the representative from Airbnb, and we'll go into other details later, but I just wanted to kind of get the main speakers introduced. Kelly, if you're ready, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Hi, I am Kelly Fay. I'm a member of Airbnb's public policy team, and thanks everybody for joining this evening and for all of the work that you have done and conversations that you will engage in terms of educating folks about what you do in Philadelphia and finding a better path forward. So thank you for your time tonight. Look forward to hearing everybody's feedback and questions and working together in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being a part of this meeting, Kelly. And this is purely grassroots, local driven and local created. And Kelly is just coming to support because our organization shares a lot of the goals that the Airbnb shares. So Kelly, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So we'll go right into why we're here, and I'm really looking forward to updating you guys on what's been done and what we want to do moving forward so that we can have a success here. So bear with me as I start the presentation. I'm going to share my screen, and just to give you guys a little heads up, we're going to have this presentation. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the details, but then we'll open up the floor for Q&A where you can ask, your board members, specifically Jose and some other individuals that are going to be likely coming on later. You can ask me anything, and feel free to ask Kelly about anything that is related on the Airbnb side that is actually answerable. And just a little preface, we don't want to ask questions about like website related things or issues that aren't related to policy, because Kelly has her work cut out for her on the policy side by itself. That is not the realm that we're here to discuss today. We're here to discuss making these changes so that we all can host, you all can continue to host in Philadelphia. So that's what we got coming up right after this.
How many people are on this call, FYI?
So John, I'm gonna give you a quick pass I'm going to mute you real quick first, but then I'll answer. It's at least 46. I think you guys should be able to see it. So we also have this live streamed on Facebook. So if you guys know anybody that, if you guys want to do a little share or something like that, they can watch right on Facebook under Airbnb Host of Philadelphia, and they can get their information there too. We actually just put it in the chat. So if you guys want to share that to anybody who you think needs to see this, they don't even have to have Zoom. They can go straight to Facebook and watch it right there. This is definitely a crucial meeting. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And of course, now my computer gets super slow. All right. So once again, this is Sharing Philadelphia, which is the Short-Term Rental Association of Philadelphia. And this is our second awareness meeting. And this is going to detail where we're at today and how far we've come already. So just the background of the organization. Sharing Philadelphia is a community organization that was started by Philadelphians and run by Philadelphians that was created in response to the highly restrictive ordinance that was proposed earlier this summer in 2021, of course. And again, if we let it go the way that it was going, it is going to put very unfair regulations on short-term rentals and likely cause 90% of short-term rentals not to be able to operate. These are the board members, and these are by that I mean the main people that started this organization and who are actively monitoring it, maintaining it, and reaching out to you guys and getting the voice heard and fighting in the background behind the scenes. So we have Jose Nunez, who just spoke, Jason Centennial, Jeff Giandulo, and myself as their advocacy consultant. Again, they call me the short-term rental regulations guy. I have successfully helped over 8 cities and over 1.2 million people keep their right to host. And that is what I want to do and hope that you guys still have the right to do as well here. Our objective is to ensure that our collective voices are heard throughout the city's legislative process and the rulemaking process, which is the most important part right now, because that's the part that we're in that could cause so much damage. We want to be a part of that so that we're left with regulations that support the industry instead of dismantling it. So now I'm going to show you guys what we've done so far. And I felt that the easiest way to do that was to just show you guys.
Hey, pretty girl.
The info from our website. So we started in July when all of this stuff was kind of coming to a head. And that's when we created the Short-Term Rental Association. We built connections with Airbnb, Expedia, and the Airbnb Host of Philadelphia Facebook group, which is the largest group of hosts in the city. So now we update and just like we're doing in this meeting, want to continue updating over 2,000 hosts with crucial information and fight for you all on your behalf. In August, we hosted an in-person event that, again, had the support of Airbnb and Expedia because we had a lot of the same goals. We want as many hosts that are responsible to be able to host in the city of Philadelphia. This introduced the board members behind Sharing Philadelphia. This is where the people that I mentioned got together and where we first started to let people know about what was at stake and what we had to do, our strategy was to stop the ban. Even though we had some COVID restrictions that came up then, and rightfully so, it was getting pretty bad when we had started this event. We still had a really good turnout, and we also got to live stream it to 2,000 hosts from the comfort of their homes where they don't have to worry about catching anything as well. So between August and November, we hosted multiple virtual awareness and fundraiser events. I also promoted this on my own Clubhouse profile, which is where I do a lot of regular talks about regulations. and help raise funds for different cities. And the biggest thing about this, to fight this, is to get the right pieces in place. And one of the most important pieces is to have a political consultant, AKA a lobbyist, that fights on your behalf and that can get you in the room the right way with the decision makers, with city council. So we were able to raise over $7,000 to help fund that. And, you know, it's not cheap, but it is necessary. And you guys banded together and were able to do that. And that allowed us to hire the political consultant and get things done in 2021. And I should say start getting things done. We had a lot of achievements then. So in October, we hired the political consultants. Just to give you an idea of who they are, the organization is called Luminous Strategies, and they have a long track record of success in fighting community fights like this. And they were working diligently to get us in the room with city council members. We already have a meeting set up for this year with the city council president, and we already met with city council Thomas and two important people that have a role with like affecting the rulemaking process, so that they understand that this is not something that works for you guys and that this needs to be changed. So like I said, in December, that's when we met with Councilman Thomas and the other key officials with the rulemaking process. And certain individuals got into the room and shared their story about how this would hurt them and, you know, hurt their families, hurt their way of making a living, and basically destroy their business and their way of life if this was to be pushed through the way that it is. And they definitely verbally, you know, they didn't understand how much it was affecting everybody. They definitely showed that they, you know, cared about this, and they pledged to go back and basically work with the other decision makers to try and make to get things postponed and to make changes. So that was the first big win that we had, but it's not over. We have to continue to meet with different decision makers so that we get that momentum. So we already have 3 individuals that I'd say are generally, I don't want to say on our side, but they are definitely receptive to what we're talking about. And we have to keep going. So that was what we did to close out the year. So we went from having there was no hope. Things were just getting pushed through. Everybody was against short-term rentals with regards to the bill. Nobody was really on our side, on the city council side, to actually having people sympathetic to our cause and pushing to get things postponed. And just so you guys know, this is something that will be put in place if we don't act and keep acting in April. So we don't have a long time. And that's why we want to continue what we're doing so that we can make that change. So with that said, this is what we have to come. So like I said, we're scheduled to speak behind closed doors with the city council president to discuss the pending rulemaking process that's going to really affect 90% of short-term rentals. We're also scheduled to speak with at least 4 other council members behind closed doors too. And this is the type of stuff that causes change. This is what happens where we were successful in 8 other cities. It was when we had these conversations with the decision makers. So this is exactly what we need to be doing, and we're doing it. And I'm really excited about what progress we can make this year. So with that said, though, we still need your continual support. So thanks to you guys, we were able to raise $7,000. That was for the initiatives that we have already done. We need to continue to raise funds. Now, this isn't a fundraiser or anything like that. We want to give awareness to what's going on, but I'm just letting you know from strictly our organization, this isn't affiliated with Airbnb or anybody else. For us to continue fighting, we have to continue to support each other. So that's something that I want you all to consider separately. And we'll put our website in the chat. If you want to support, that is how we definitely need support moving forward. But let's continue with keeping you guys aware of what's going on. So, and this is more of what I was talking about with regards to our separate fundraising initiative. And I pretty much mentioned that. One second. It's a goal of $7,000, and we're using this to continue the use of the political consultant team, operating costs for the organization, website, email blasts, ads, cost of putting together events like this, consulting with experts. All of that is where this money goes to. Last but not least, when we have our Q&A session, I really want to know, and everybody wants to know, what you guys want most from the organization besides what we're already doing. This is something that's not like, we're first and foremost focused on fighting this fight, because if this doesn't go right, then a lot of people won't be able to host, right? But this is something that Philadelphia should constantly have access to. You guys need an association, just like there's a realtors association and a regular real estate association. You need a short-term rental association to fight on your behalf and help maintain relationships with city council so that you guys don't run into this situation again. So if people have questions about what they might want in the future, feel free to ask. But of course, right now, the most important thing is getting the right legislation in place so you guys don't lose your right to host. So that was everything with regards to the PowerPoint. We'll also share this PowerPoint just in case people have questions or want this to take home with them. We'll be able to share that so you guys know about what's going on. So next, what I'd like to do is talk about our strategy and what we are planning to do. So I talked about in general what we have scheduled, but I want to go a little deeper with the real cause of why this will hurt so many people, is because the rulemaking process, it has to do with the licensing. So they passed an ordinance, City Council passed an ordinance that requires people who are non-primary residents to that are hosting for, and I'm paraphrasing right this minute because I want to stay on the most important parts. I want to say it's at least more than 90 days. It might be 180. We can clarify that. But the main part is you have to apply for a license, and you will only be able to get that license if you're in a CMX3 or higher zoning designation. So you have to be zoned CMX3 or higher to get this license. And unfortunately, CMX3 is a very small proportion of the whole city. It's mainly the city center. So anybody who's outside of that, that's actually trying to operate a business, like anything short of full time or more, they're not going to be able to get this licensing the way that they intend to do the rulemaking process. But they haven't done this yet. So we have a chance, a good chance, to influence the rulemaking process so that they include more people. That's what the big part of our plan is. So just to break it down, we want to push for an extension of the April 1st deadline, because that deadline, it means that it's too late. If it gets to then it's too late, and people are going to have to just deal with what the licensing process is that they intend. We want to push that deadline, because with pushing that deadline, that gives us more time to keep influencing the decision makers. But then also we want to speak with L&I. They're the group, the government group that is in charge of making these licensing rules. We want to speak directly with L&I officials so that it includes, the rulings will include more hosts. And I would say the majority of hosts. All hosts, our goal is to have all hosts that are responsible still be able to operate. So that is the real meat of the situation. And that's the main part of our goal right now. And again, our consultants, Luminous Strategies, they are very well versed at doing things like this. They've already made great connections already for us. And we just need to keep going with them and doing what we're doing. And also, it's very useful for you all to write to your city council members and to the people in the ones in your district and show that, you guys are vocal about this too, to really get this process moving and get where we want to go. So with that said, I feel like I have been taking all the thunder. I've been talking this whole time. I want to open the floor for Jose Nunez to say anything, and especially Kelly Fay to say what Airbnb's take on things are and what their understanding of things are. So Jose, I'll leave the floor to you. You can speak whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Darren. I think he put it pretty clearly. Is going to affect the majority of hosts in Philadelphia, myself included, even though I have some units that are CMX3 or above, but the majority are not. Yeah, this is happening. It's already an ordinance, and we're trying to just influence the rulemaking process so we could somehow, you gotta mute. Somehow influence the rulemaking process so it could be more inclusive to everyone, not just those who are CMX3 or above, but it will basically eliminate 90%. And it's not fair the way the licensing is made out. And I guess in their defense, it's not a ban, but it's a more restrictive way to ban us. So I think if we bring this this awareness more to our council members and just make everyone more aware and everyone kind of raise their voice, then we must be heard. I mean, we are the residents, we are their constituents, and I believe with enough loud voice and as an association, we could definitely influence that because it's been done in other cities. That's all.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. So at this time, let's pass the mic to Kelly Fay, and Kelly, the floor is all yours.
Great. Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for taking some time to join tonight. I think, much of what has been said is pretty straightforward and kind of hits the nail on the head where, there is a deadline that's coming up in April. There's a lot of unanswered questions that do exist. Parts of this regulatory scheme are currently in place and have been for several years, but weren't really kind of widely understood. And I think some parts are being changed. Some parts are not clear as of yet. We don't really have an updated sort of picture of what the full regulatory process will look like. So while that deadline is quite close, there's still really an opportunity to, get in front of the people who can kind of help make this a better situation for everybody and more reasonable overall. And I think a big part of that is to, kind of say, hey, let's wait and look at what this fully entails for people, what the impact could be. And really ask people to kind of pump the brakes, especially on this initial rollout, because it's, without having the full information, that's really quick to have this enforced and in place. So I totally, agree that that's an important point to be making. And I think that generally the vast majority, or, I think there are many city council members and stakeholders in general, don't really want to drastically restrict this activity. I think that there is a lack of kind of understanding and public awareness about what is being actually enforced come April. And that's where I think you all can come in and have a really strong point to make. As I noted, some parts of this with the zoning variants are kind of carry over from previous regulations. And so it's really important to ask people to revisit it. Because I think it's quite easy to just sort of say, we're keeping, certain parts in place. But I think that the point is that the current process that was in place is not manageable for most folks. And it's really time to take a look at that while we have the opportunity leading up to April on this ordinance. So I totally, would encourage you all to engage, and we can find ways to help support you all in that engagement as well. As I said, there's a lot that's unanswered right now. And I think it's super important to just be asking those questions because otherwise April can come quick and, people will just keep chugging along, and now is the time to really raise those flags. So I did put in the chat a link to where the full ordinance is available online. So we can put that in again, or maybe Theron, we could just make sure it's up for folks to follow up with them so they can take a look at it and be clear on what you're referencing as you're kind of going to various stakeholders on this.
For sure. I saw that in the chat as well. We're going to make sure that this gets circulated. So I just posted it again, just to make sure that people still see it. And by the way, everybody, please look into the chat. Definitely keep looking into the chat, because we're going to put some important stuff there. So we're going to put the bill there. We're going to also put our sign up list here, so you guys can get email updates, and you guys will not be surprised or miss out on any important updates as we move forward. So if this is something that's going to affect you, or you're just concerned, you need to be on this list so you can stay informed. So we're going to put the email list on there, and then we'll also put our website so you guys can see the website, and you can join from there. You can donate as well, but we're just going to make sure that you guys have everything you need to stay on top of this, because we all want to stay on top of this so that we can get this done. We have to collectively come together on this. And Kelly, thanks so much for your explanation and everything that you and your team members on Airbnb are doing as well. We really appreciate it, and I know Philadelphia appreciates it. All right, so looking at the agenda here, I know we explained a good amount. I'm sure there's people that still have questions, want to interact with us, and we really want to hear from you all. Apologies with regards to the video, another Zoom glitch where the video doesn't automatically turn on. Feel free to turn on you guys' video. You know, you guys are all the Philadelphia community. I think it's good that you guys get to see each other. Hopefully you guys get to kind of chat with each other and really come together on this stuff too, because we really have to keep ourselves and build and stay connected as a community, so that we fight this and so stuff like this doesn't happen again. So it's really important that we all come together. I'm a host as well. So I started off hosting on Airbnb. That's how I got into this space. And it's normally, I feel like a lot of people are usually by themselves. They've learned a lot of information. They figured out how to host and they're doing it, but they're not necessarily connected to a real network. So this is also what's really important with this type of association, is so that you guys can be connected and actually be an industry in Philadelphia, not just be a singular host or business owner, because that's where the strength is. And that's what's going to make sure that you guys can stay operational and that things like this don't happen. So really take advantage of this. I'm so glad all you wonderful people are here. So at this point, I think we can go ahead and start the open forum. We're starting it a little bit early, but I think especially with the people in here, we can get a lot of good questions answered. So the way that we'll do this is, if you have a question, either hit the raise hand button, and if you can't find that, just go ahead and you can say you have a question in the chat. Just notify us, and we're going to choose people one by one to unmute, and you can ask your question directly to whoever you want to ask it to. So the first person that raised their hand is Jon Massaro. I think you're the person that spoke up before, so I knew you had a question, John. I knew you did, and it's all good. I'm glad you're vocal about this. I'm happy you're on. So go ahead and ask your question, and also introduce yourself first. So say who you are, where you host, tell a little bit about yourself and how and who you are as a host. Like, how many properties do you have, that kind of stuff, and then let us know who you're trying to ask a question to, and then ask your question.
Okay, great. Thanks. My name's John. I am a real estate professional, I guess, more in terms of sales. I sell larger multifamily properties in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia specifically. My girlfriend and I are both on the call. We have three multifamily properties with RM1 zoning, so low density multifam, in 19122, like Fishtown, Old Kensington, and then one in in Manayunk, 19127. I have two questions. The first question is, how much money do you guys need to raise right now to like continue to be effective? And then do you want me to ask the second one now, or once the first one's answered?
Look, as long as you don't forget that question, that's probably the best thing to do. Is we'll
okay, fine. So
we'll
how much
one
money
at a
do you
time.
guys need right now to continue to be effective? Yeah.
For sure. So, and Jose, I'll let you chime in on this too, but I know that, you know, we're on calls all the time, so we already know what the amount is, and we've presented it in the PowerPoint, but I want to definitely reiterate. So what we need to stay effective is $7,000 to continue to utilize the consultants for the time that we need to use them for. We need that to continue running the website and doing all the operations that we're doing and paying for those services. So that's what this is going towards, and that is what we need. In the past,
how much more
raised $7,000 before. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
How much more do we need? Like above and beyond the 7,000? Like right now, how much more do we need to raise?
So the 7,000 should last for, like, we try to keep it in phases. Because then we get to see how much more time we really need. Then we know how much we really need to raise. Okay, so, oh, sorry. Go ahead and mute yourself, whoever that was. Thank you. So it's kind of hard to say, but it would probably be another $4,000 after that. But I like to keep it in segments because, first of all, we want to make sure we're raising what's necessary. And we don't want to discourage people where, you know, if we get to that target, we will be able to do what we need to do for the next phase, meaning we will be able to, get in the room with LNI, meet with the city council president, get this stuff going. And then if we need to continue, which is possible, then we can go to that next phase. But I want to make sure we're doing things where we have achievements for you guys. And that's exactly what we need from you all. And then when we get there, you know, I know that everybody's business owners, you know, this is important. I mean, you won't have a business if you don't commit to this, right? But that's how we have it structured. So hopefully that answers your question. 7,000 at this point, possibly $4,000 further down the line, probably in like 2 months or so.
Okay, sounds good. That's great. And then my second question is, in terms of like reaching out to city council on like individual levels, how important would you say that is for us to maybe email a representative directly, just on our behalf, for our behalf to them? And who would you recommend that we reach out to out of all the members that there are?
For sure. So I'll answer, and I'll also pass the floor to Kelly Fay, because Airbnb has a really good tool to help with this, and they're experts in this segment of things as well. So first off, it is all, when I say positive, I'll explain what I mean, but all positive outreach to city council is important for all constituents, anybody living in the city or just concerned. It would be, and by positive, I mean, you don't want to send a message saying like that's negative, like, oh, we hate you guys are trying to kill our business, you guys are the worst. You don't want to go from that. You want to go from Airbnb. Short-term rentals are so good for me and my family that if this were like, it's helping me do X, Y, and Z. It's helping put my kids through college. It's helping me make ends meet. It's my livelihood. And if this is taken away from me, then I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose X. I'm not going to be able to, support myself financially. That's how you really want to come with it. You don't want to be negative. You want to talk about personal experience, how it's good for you, and what happens if this is taken away from you. So it's definitely important. And what I like to call it is, it's kind of like, I call it the 3 pillars. You want the direct, and you need the direct outreach to city council members behind closed doors through proper channels, which is what the lobbyists get for you. You need that. And that's usually what most cities are missing when they are not successful with things like this. But the public outreach is also important too. So we wouldn't want to not have that, So everybody who can write a message, send an email, that's so important. And I would say you'd want to focus on the district where you live, or that you have properties in that are short-term rentals. But even if you're not in Philadelphia, I mean, still, like, it's helpful. Even if you're not a host, like if you're a concerned citizen, write to a city council member, let them know what's going on. Because the more that they see that you guys are a large group that, and this is really going to affect you in a negative way. But I'm going to pass the floor to Kelly because she has some other things to say about this too.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I think I put in the link there for finding your council member in case you're not familiar with who that is. But as Theron said, I think it's really taking the personal approach. It's people hear about issues like this from a number of different members of their community, right? And squeaky wheel kind of gets the grease. So, and every now and then, yeah, there might be an issue and someone might assume it's related to STR. So you can kind of, I'm trying to put it lightly, but like if someone has an issue about something, they're very likely going to reach out, right? So I think it's great to be that positive side of that. 9 times out of 10 things go perfectly well, and people, this is a benefit to folks, and it's important for them to be hearing that side of the story as well, and really balancing the needs of both when they're making decisions like this. So I would say it's pretty invaluable to really make sure that they understand where you're coming from. And I would say, communicating some of the questions that you do have would be a great exercise, because they might not be aware of what the process looks like for people like you. They might not be aware that, how drastic or demanding this is. And so kind of going through that and assuming, a place of positivity and that they want to enable reasonable people to do this, and kind of like asking for a partner to figure out how to get point A to point B while balancing, some of the other folks who might have opinions about it. It's an issue that there's many different stakeholders on it, but just important for you to be there at the table so that they're not necessarily just hearing negative things about it, but they also can say, hey, I actually know, so-and-so in my district, and they do this, and, they do it responsibly, and it's been really beneficial for certain homeowners, et cetera. So, yeah, I would absolutely second what Theron said there, and just, the more you can get familiar with them and that they are used to hearing from you, ultimately the better for this issue, not just for the next couple months, but long-term.
Fantastic, Kelly. Apologies for taking all your points, because we've talked about this before, and we basically are on this, the same page. I was just taking things that we all discussed already, but I wanted to add, isn't there it's like a form or some sort of tool that Airbnb has? Is that valid for Philadelphia? It's like a letter writing tool kind of?
Yeah, so we do have certain tools that we can deploy in areas to encourage engagement such as this, yes. And that would be coming independently, like from us through our advocacy channels. Yes. Gotcha. Okay. We'll definitely keep in touch. And if any of that makes sense, we'll definitely send it out to the people. But if you guys aren't signed up already, you want to sign up for policy emails by Airbnb, because that's how they communicate with you on policy and social issues like this. So, advocacy issues like this. So, if you're not signed up already, you definitely want to sign up for emails, and specifically policy emails by Airbnb. Actually, Kelly, do you know the process of that? I don't know off the top of my head, but I know it could be a quick Google search, and people can get that information too. But I'm just curious. Yeah, I can get that information. If not right now, then I can send it to you so folks have it in the follow-up information. It's just a matter of switching on a certain permission on your account. Gotcha.
Okay. Thanks so much for that, Kelly. And so guys, we'll definitely send out information on how to do that. And yeah, you guys just want to really stay connected. And before we go to the next person, I want to remind everybody, we posted the sign up form. Everybody, if you're on this call, you need to sign up on that sign up form, because that's how we're letting people know what's going on. I don't want you guys to be in a situation where city council is doing some special thing, or LNI has some special request, and we're looking for people, or we need to let people know about stuff, and you guys don't get the email. So definitely sign up on that sign up form so that you can stay up to date on this stuff. Okay, so Jon, thanks so much for your help. I mean, for your questions. That was really those were really good questions. So thanks again. So next we'll go to Leslie G.
That's me. Hi, how are you doing?
Perfect. Perfect. How's it going? Don't forget to introduce yourself and let us know more about you as either a host or concerned neighbor, citizen, and let us know your question.
Okay, so I'm Leslie. I've been a host in University City for since 2015. In fact, I opened like shortly after the papal visit, and I had hoped to open before then, but I didn't get my renovations done in time. And I was at the time hooked into a lot of the activities that Airbnb was trying to do to get people mobilized for the papal visit. So I learned that Philadelphia had this new legislation, and I decided to do everything by the book. And I am a homeowner. I live in my listing. My listing is the third floor of my house. It's kind of like an in-law suite. But I actually have three separate ways I rent the third floor of my house. But basically it's an in-law suite, and it's only 3 rooms of my house and a kitchen and a bath. Anyway, so I got this limited lodging home license in the first year of my operations. And I set myself up so I could run 180 days a year. At the time, I was kind of annoyed about some of the restrictions of this license that they were offering, particularly that it only allows me to host 2 people that aren't related to me at once, even though I have a 6-bedroom house. And also that it limits only half a year, 180 days. So it really constrains how much money I can make. But at the same time, the restrictions have also made my life a little bit more. I kind of actually like it that it doesn't overwhelm my normal life in my house. So what I'm wondering is, does this limited lodging home license that the city set up for people like me, is that going to continue to exist? And how is this legislation going to affect me otherwise?
Okay, so, let's see. Because I've been doing all the talking, Kelly, I'm curious, would you like to answer this one? I know you've been looking into that, the bill and whatnot. If not, I can go ahead and answer, but I just wanted to pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, no, sure, I can. So Leslie, currently, as you noted, there are, and anyone please correct me if I'm wrong, if you're more intimately familiar, which I suspect Leslie might be, but currently you do need a limited lodging operator license to rent up to 180 days a year. And then it's a secondary visitor accommodation for 180 days plus in a primary residence or a non-primary residence. What this bill is going to do is, you still would need a limited lodging operator license for your primary residence for any amount of time. So you don't necessarily, at least the way it looks is like, you don't have to abide by that 180 days. If it's your primary residence, you may rent it if you have a limited lodging operator license. And then secondary residences, non-primary residences, would be required the visitor accommodation, which has to go through the zoning process, which folks have mentioned if you're not in that CMX 3, 4, or 5 district. So and I want everyone kind of take this with a grain of salt since it's not fully launched yet and we're still kind of waiting on some details. Limiting lodging operator licenses there will be a new system stood up. So you would still need to get it. I don't have clarity that your current license would carry over. You would likely have to get it under the new regulatory scheme once it's fully launched. But that's sort of, the bigger picture of what you'd be looking at. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. So basically, I'm probably going to have to reapply for my license under the new scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, I was a little confused about what you said about this secondary Now, if I wanted to rent more than 180 days, is there a way I can do, would there be a way I can do it under the proposed scheme?
Yes, so what's being proposed is if it's your primary residence, there is not the night cap that was previously there under this new rule. But if it is a non-primary residence, then you would have to get that separate type of license.
Right, yeah, it's definitely my primary residence. And I don't have any plans to expand into any other other residences, and I'm definitely not, I'm pretty sure I'm not CMX3. I'm in a residential neighborhood.
Great. Well, thanks for showing up tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you're doing this because it's confusing.
Oh, ain't that the truth? That's why we're here. That is why we're here. Well, thank you so much for your question, Leslie. Yeah, please stay connected with us. Sign up on the email list. If anything changes, we'll be ready to let you know. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so next, let's go to Roberta Tanenbaum. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello. Please introduce yourself. Let us know about your business or what your affiliation is with short-term rentals, and then
Sure. I have an Airbnb. It's in the same building as I am in, but actually I'm zone CMX1. Been doing the Airbnb for a few years now, but I have two questions. So I'll start with the first one and then wait for the answer. I'm just curious about the CMX3, and am I wrong to assume that it's coming from lobbyists for hotels and they don't like the business that we're pulling away from them? And, if that's the case, how many councilmen are being swayed by those lobbyists? That's my first question.
Okay. That's definitely a heavy question there. So yeah, we better handle that one first, for sure, before hearing the other one. So Jose, I know you've definitely, as a Philadelphian, you've heard some things. We've talked about some stuff. Did you want to go ahead and talk on this a little bit? And I can touch base on it too with my experience as well after you.
I would say the lead council member that created this bill is Mark Squilla. Now, and it's been mentioned during the council member meetings that, for one, it's partying noise, 2, trash, and then 3, the last one would be affordable housing component. Now, I'm pretty sure no council member is gonna come out and be like, hey, we're being influenced by a hotel. But has that played a part in other cities, bigger cities? Yes. So we can't say for sure, but those 3 that I mentioned first, that has been said publicly. The other ones, you hear rumors, but you can't dismiss it. All I know is the fact that they want to restrict it more towards central business districts, which are more clustered around, let's say, Center City and those type of things. But there are literally neighborhoods, entire neighborhoods, that don't even have one CMX3 or hotels. For example, close to the art museum. But yeah.
Okay, so
great. Well, I'll touch base on that too, because I think there's some other really important information that I want to let you and everybody on this call know. So what Jose said is absolutely correct. That is what they're saying is the reasoning behind this. But I want you guys to know that, and this is from, again, I have experience in this and success in over 8 cities. What they're saying, especially with regards to affordable housing, it is not the case. Short-term rentals in Philadelphia are not causing an overall affordable housing crisis. The things that are mentioned, that Councilman Squilla mentioned, are the general things that any council member in any city mentions as a reason to get short-term rentals, let's just say banned, quote unquote. And that's not saying to say that Mark Squilla is being malicious in any way, but it's almost like what's the word? It's almost like that's the short-term rentals and Airbnb, because that's what people mostly know of with regards to short-term rentals, is a lot of times used as a scapegoat for things such as affordable housing and the other things mentioned. And data shows that this is not the case in almost every city. We're not talking about New York. We're not talking about LA. We're not talking about cities that are completely different from the makeup of Philadelphia, but we're talking about most general cities. Harvard actually did a study showing that short-term rentals, if they cause a rise in property prices, it's such a low percent that it is like equal to something like a zip code change or something benign in real estate. So they proved that in most cities that this is not something that's causing an affordable housing crisis. Now, again, there are cities that are definitely in the exception there, but Philadelphia is not one of them. And I've worked in cities that have similar demographics to Philadelphia and like the way that the city is set up and what like the population and all of that stuff. And there's actually data showing that there's cities that have come back or there's some transitioning that's happening, housing being built that was vacant due to short-term rentals. So there's actually more data showing that short-term rentals in cities like Philadelphia are helping neighborhoods, not making them worse or raising the property values to exorbitant levels or anything like that. So I just want you guys to know more facts and like understand understand information that you probably wouldn't hear if you just Googled it. And I don't want you guys to think that you might be supporting a cause or you're operating a short-term rental and it's actually detrimental to your community. Because in Philadelphia, plain and simple, it just isn't. Now, if you're in New York or LA, again, that's a different situation, but that's not the situation in Philly. So this is also one of those things that we are, bringing to the decision makers with regards to, oh, hey, this is not really, this is not affecting it the way that, people are saying that it's affecting it. That's just a scapegoat. That's just a term that's just what they'll use because it's the most common thing that's publicized about short-term rentals and why maybe they're not a good idea to be in a neighborhood. So I just really wanted to set kind of the record straight there. But and then to go with the other part about what's behind this, off record or whatever, there have been, rumors of that, but that's not something that we can confirm. And what I really want to say is you really don't want to focus so much on what's behind it. You just want to focus on what your power is and how good it is for your community, because that's really where you make the change. It really doesn't do any good to try and figure out who's behind it, if there's some shadow thing happening in the background, because really, if you're showing that your community and you guys, there's thousands of people that are going to be affected by this, thousands of businesses. You guys showing that you are going to be affected by this, you guys are a very strong demographic, small business owners, and in many cases, minority business owners, women, this is the demographic that a lot of decision makers in Philadelphia want to protect. And showing that you guys are going to be affected, and I'm not leaving anybody out, I mean any business owner, but what I'm saying is this is the stuff that's powerful, and that's actually, if you utilize it correctly, it's much more powerful than some corporation with huge pockets throwing money into things, because that just only goes so far. You got to remember that, they're voted on by you guys, and they don't want to look like they are hurting the little guy. And if you guys are showing up and if our organization is doing what we're doing, that's what's going to show as that is happening. If this passes the way that it's passing, you're hurting the little guy. And that's what none of the city council members want. That's not what any of the rule makers want. They want to help, the community. They don't want to look like they're hurting it. So I just really wanted to set the record there that that's not really true what the claims are of why they're doing this. Hopefully that made things a little clearer. I know I kind of went on a soapbox, but it's something that is prevalent like worldwide. This is happening in a lot of places. But anyways, Roberta, hopefully that was helpful.
Yes.
And if so, what was your second question?
Yes, well, and it made me realize I could write in my letter to the councilman how my Airbnb brings in for the families in the neighborhood, in the small houses, their families come so they can be close. I'm close to the families. So it is more about the community. If I get shut down, I'm going to have a lot of families and repeat people that like coming to my spot. They won't have a place to go anymore that's close to their families. So anyway, my second question is about the deadline, the April 1st deadline. And I've already started getting bookings, and I've been hesitating about accepting them, not knowing what's going to happen, because I've also read in some articles that we can be fined up to $1,000 a day for renting and not having the right license. So a sense of, what do I do? What's coming up next? What, the steps? Is there going to be a delay? How likely? Can you give me more details on that?
Gotcha. Well, how about this? So you're talking about Airbnb bookings and what you can do with regards to that. I'll pass the floor to Kelly to answer that. And if there's anything that isn't covered, I'll follow up with just things that we're planning to do as an organization. I mean, I'll say that's just to quickly chime in. I mean, that is why it's so important for everybody that if you want to operate your business for this year moving forward, you need to, at the very least, sign up for the email list so you can stay abreast of the information, so that you're not caught in a situation where you're going to be fined or something like that when the high season comes, but also to support in whatever way possible so that we can get this delayed and then ultimately get this changed for the better. But Kelly, since this was an Airbnb specific question, I'll pass the floor to you.
Sure. So unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you right now, right? I mean, the ordinance as it's written goes into effect April of 2022. We are really hopeful and really hope to reach an understanding with the city that's reasonable. I know that, other platforms are hopeful, and, there's a lot of different stakeholders in this beyond that. And, it's short of saying that we're trying to navigate that conversation, and our hope is to have a reasonable expectation where there's enough time for people to understand their responsibilities, get registered, and go through that process. That's really a huge priority for us. But I can't necessarily give advice as to how to handle that at this stage. Unfortunately, I know it's not a great answer, but it's just not, it's not something that I could necessarily give you advice on at this stage. And ultimately, I mean, if we're looking at the ordinance itself, it says April, where many other cities find a way to do a smoother rollout and work with people. And that's really where the focus is, but I can't necessarily give you advice legally on what you should be doing related to that at this stage.
For sure. Couldn't have said it better myself. And by the way, everybody, this is not legal advice. Okay. I appreciate the questions, but we do not want anybody to end up getting $1,000 fine. We're going to knock on wood and say that that's not even going to happen. We're going to get to a point where we get change happening, just like we've done in other cities. But, I think the real focus here is right now, I just understand that that's something that could happen. So probably to be very cautious, just know that that might be something where you're going to have to, those bookings could be compromised. But again, this isn't legal advice. I think the main thing to focus on is like Kelly said, it's right now it's April 1st. We're hopeful about what's happening with our strategy and what we're doing, and Airbnb is working as well. So I would really put as much focus on supporting to make change here so that we don't even have to worry about that, because that's basically the worst case scenario, that if we don't act now, that's an inevitability if nothing changes, since they've set it up and already said April 1st is the deadline right now. So hopefully that answers your question in the best way. And again, not legal advice, but yeah, anybody else giving you some other information would be wrong, because that's the point right now. It's a level of unknown right now, and we can still work to change this so that we have it in a really good place. Okay, so I'm going to pick somebody that's raising their hand, but I did see that there were definitely some people who had some good questions in the chat. it might be good to start answering some of those in the chat too. And then we'll get back to the questions up front.